Hello, hi, I'm Tom Oxnard. When we build our layouts, we have track and trains and large areas of scenery. The scenery on my layout is mountains and country and towns and city. I have a large variety of structures because I like to make New England buildings, and I modeled the Boston and Maine in the 1950s. So I'm going to talk about what's up on your roof and hopefully give you some ideas of things you can do. The structures on my layout are inspired by buildings in my town and throughout northern New England. When you walk around these lovely old buildings, you look up at them from the street and see the fronts and sides and backs of them. Occasionally you see the roofs and chimneys if they are gabled. You don't see what is on the flat-topped roofs except for some vents or stacks occasionally. On layouts, track are at eye level or looking down on the tracks and the towns and the cities. On my layout, my track is at 40 inches to 48 inches, so I am looking down at my tracks and my towns and my buildings. The buildings have roofs that make up a large part of your scenery when you add up all that area. There are many interesting features on the roofs, including dormers and valleys, chimneys and vents and stacks, water tanks, air conditioners, structures, junk, and signs. All this space is a fun additional area to model. Let me start with roof surfaces. The shingles are commonly used, come in different varieties and textures. I started off with rolls of Campbell shingles, which give either a rough wavy look like on the left here, or a smoother surface if you use a lot of glue and compression. I then used 3-tab laser art shingles strips by branch line, as on the right. And again, you can use a little more glue and make these lie flatter. These are realistic and lie flat. Many other companies produce shingles, and some look like cedar shakes. Here are some Bar Mills examples of 3-tab shingles on the left, and then shake-style shingles on the right. Those are good for roofs, but also good for siding and shake-style siding. Shingles come in different shapes, and I have made diamond shingles as well with my wife's pinking shears. I try to use different brands and styles and have as much variety as I can. But obviously I've used Campbell shingles, laser art shingles by Branchline, Bar Mills, Northeastern Scale Lumber, Best, Motrac models, real cedar shakes, and the ones I mentioned that I scratch built. Roof shapes also add interest. You can make hip roofs, you can add dormers, you can add valleys, you can add cupolas. Here are 3-tab shingles. You can make them look like slate. I make ridge caps from paper by scoring them lightly with a blade down the center where the fold is, and then cutting about 1/16 of an inch on either side to make the full ridge cap. Fold that gently, and you can glue those down your ridges. On the left, I've used the individual shingles and formed them over the ridge line to make that ridge cap on the left. Here is a roof that shows valleys. Start with that paper in the valley first, then butt your shingles up to the edge of that valley and leave the valley open. I've also added dormers and cupolas, and they add some good interest. Here is actual cedar that's shaved into very thin strips. I bought this a very long time ago. Here is a Sierra scale model piece that I bought for $1, and you can make your shingles from this by cutting these horizontally every 3/16 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, then cutting them horizontally to make your individual cedar shingles. On the left, here is the cedar shingles in place. On the right, I have simulated asphalt rolled roofing material, which is easy to make from charcoal gray paper cut to 3-foot widths. I run a pounce wheel down 1 inch to show the nail holes. I usually use 3M transfer tape to glue on the rolled roofing and the shingles. You can spray the paper different colors or use pan pastel to weather them and show wear and tear. Metal roofs can be made from corrugated aluminum sheets or ribbed seam sheets. Acrylic paint seems less adherent, so I usually spray these with these aluminum sheets with a gray primer. I then weather them with pan pastel and AI. Ridge caps can be cut from the ribbed seam part of the sheet and then folded over as seen on the right. All roofs have flashing, so you can use paper for flashing or aluminum duct tape. I use aluminum duct tape most of the time. It is easily cut and molds to the shape required, and it sticks in place very easily. I try to add patches to roofs to make them look old. On the left is my rolled asphalt shingles torn to show some decking underneath. On the right, there's different colors of asphalt rolled roofing and shingles in place to make this roof look very patched and old. Here are some diamond shingles that I've cut and made and scratch built from rolled roofing. On the right, don't forget to add gutters and downspouts. These are easy to add and look very nice. On the left is simulated slate roofing with 3 tabs that are colored different colors to simulate some slate. You can see some broken or skewed parts. On the right, this is a patched roof with rolled roofing and strapping in place to show it's been through a few decades of use. Chimneys come in many sizes and shapes. Some chimneys have new brick, some have old brick, some have cement caps or brick caps, some have flues showing, and some don't. They all have flashing at their base, and again I use the aluminum duct tape for that. It cuts easily and molds to shape. Here are a variety of chimneys with flues. I make flues from styrene tubing or empty ballpoint pen tubes, heavy brass wire or sprues. And again, with brick tops or cement tops, you can make them all look different. Here are some other chimneys and flues and vents. Here are some chimneys, brick chimneys, that I've covered with some spackling and painted with some cement color, simulating some stucco on top or repairs on top of this brick chimney. Next come vents. Vents come in all shapes and sizes as well. Every building needs multiple vents, and over the years I've collected many. Vents are also easy to make from sprues, but vents either have caps or no caps, but again they all have flashing at their bases. These are images from the computer, and you can find a whole variety of these images online. Here are vents on flat top roofs, going back to flat top roofs with their rolled roofing paper. I simulate the patches and lines with tar lines with Sharpies. On the right, there are two vents that are milk cans that are turned upside down. In the back, there is the base of a telephone pole that I was cut off to size and used as a vent. Same as on the left, the bottom of a telephone pole cut off. So I keep all these parts and pieces in my parts box. Here are, on the left, roofs with multiple vents with just rods and various tubes. The two large vents are buttons off of an old radio that I used, connecting to sprues that I've collected over the time. The wires are brass or phosphor bronze wires. On the right, this cyclone vent, connects to the roof with wooden dowels and with heavy gauge wire. These are some Bar Mills, these are some South River Model Works kits with lovely vents that they provided, so they always have great detail parts. Here is a vent that I've scratch built from a factory in town by the railroad tracks. The vent is still in place, and it is just a lovely vent. So photographing the prototype, I built the base with balsa wood and sanded that to shape, cut that to shape, used styrene tubing to make many of the other parts, styrene strips, and then used angle irons for the base support. So that's scratch built. Here are some other scratch built vents made from balsa wood on the left and styrene pieces. The top is probably a metal part from Best, added to the balsa wood bases. On the right is the telephone pole base and other parts and pieces that I've collected over time. Here are some more vents. Here is a scratch-built vent on the left that I saw in a picture or saw from a model. Can be made with styrene tubing and angle irons and angle pieces. On the right is a Bar Mills kit with some interesting different vents. Here are some background buildings and with multiple vents of different varieties, air conditioning units and other vents. But these background buildings are a transition, and to make that transition better, I've covered the roof with various parts and pieces that catch your eye and take away from that a sharp transition. Next are water tanks. Water tanks are an important part of roofs. These are images from the internet, and to me they look like scenes in New York where you look across the top of the buildings in New York, and every building has a water tank. What's fascinating is that each of these roof coverings are the same angle. So somehow they've determined that that seems to be a good angle. Here are water tanks from kits, from Walther's kits. A wooden one in the background, and a metal one in the background on my layout. But water tanks were an important necessity for buildings from the mid-19th century onward, as building construction allowed them to rise higher. Water pipes also improved to to carry water higher. The first wooden water tanks were built by barrel makers or coopers, but these are easy to make from different size cardboard tubes. I have collected many over time, and these can be smaller diameter or larger diameter. Cut these to size and shape. I then cover the side of these tanks with 2x6 basswood that I pre-stained to slightly different colors. Glue these in place onto the outside. The strapping I use is typically 1x2 styrene strips or brass wire, and the tops are cut from circles of heavy paper. I cut a radius out of that circle. I then fold that together to make small cones and create those cones of proper shape or size that you wish. They can be shallow or they can be steeper. Once that's dried, add the shingles on, add trim boards, add the finial, add the ladders, and add the piping. Here are some more water tanks on the right, the ladder coming up to the top, put a little hatch in. On the left, you can see the hatches, but the one thing I forgot was the strapping on those, so that's important to add. Here are some other water tanks. On the left, Bar Mills covered this water tank with some paper. You can cover these with paper and put different names and logos on them. On the right, another scratch-built water tank from cardboard and basswood covering. Heating and air conditioning vents are important. They came along over the years. And again, you can get online and look at the images. These are images from the internet. What's basically the same is that they're either square or rectangles. They have vents, they have sides and vents, they have protrusions, they have all sorts of panels on them. Some of these vents can be round. Here are more images of heating and ventilation units, slightly different colors, tan, gray, green, and some bigger ones on the right with a lot of different belt-driven and motors and vents and a different form of vent. Here's the heating and ventilation ductwork. Panels that can be easily scratch built that go into the roof, around the roof, the top of the roof. So here are a few of the heating and ventilation units that I've made. On the left in back is a simple cube made from styrene with different protrusions and parts that are added, multiple different vents and skylights that came with kits. On the right, again, more vents, sprues, water tanks. Here's air conditioning vents on the left, made in back with some ductwork made from 1/4-inch styrene tubing with small styrene braces. Usually I use a 2x2-inch styrene for bracing that ductwork. On the left, you can see the stairs leading up to the door, access to your roof. Some roofs need hatches, some have stairs and doors, some just have ladders to get up on the roof. Here are some scratch-built air conditioning and heating ductwork. What I found valuable was getting the vents made with brass mesh. I had purchased a small piece of brass mesh from Precision Scale Company a few years ago, and I have attached these to the sides to make these vents round and square. And here's the ductwork with the 2x2 styrene braces and hatches. Here it is on the roof. I painted this with gray primer and then with some aluminum spray paint to give a dull aluminum look. Used pan pastels to cover that. Here are some other structures that you can put on roofs. On the left is a fire station, an old fire station with the hose tower. This actually is a prototype in my town. It's now a restaurant, but there's a lovely old fire station in downtown. On the right is just a scratch-built barn cupola with brass pin and bead for the top weather vane. Next is signs. Signs are a big part of roofs, and these are some of the billboards that bar mills made and started their career in kit production a couple decades ago. So these were wonderful signs, and I collected a few that seem to have some meaning to my layout and to me. We may have all had a A&P back in our hometowns in the 50s and 60s. Here are some bar mill signs on my downtown hotel. You can get signs from them with just letters that you can create your own signs. And on the right, this is the bus terminal. Again, more signs from bar mills, Sherwin-Williams paint, and of course the Moxie sign for New England. Next here is more signs. One of my buildings, again, bar mills had these nice lettering kits that you can produce different signs. And here's a couple signs on the right, one in the background, Old Dutch Cleanser. Billboards are another whole thing that you can make, and they certainly add color. They have few words, they have large print, they're easy to see. Some of these, once you purchase one billboard from wherever, it's easy to reproduce your own and scratch build them. There are many billboards that you can find on the internet and print from there. But billboards are great if you can find these signs that declare your era. Ford trucks from 1951. This Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus sign on the building happened to be a stamp that was produced maybe 10 years ago that I just photocopied and placed on the building. Signs are things you can scratch build. So here is a scratch built sign for my shoe company, shoe factory. Got some images of shoes off the internet and just made my own sign for that roof. Here is a large homemade sign that I made for my B&M building, which is the Burnham and Morrill Company factory in Portland, Maine. So I had some pictures of this old rooftop sign that was present up through probably the 1950s. a big, beautiful sign on top of that factory. I found on the internet the best font was Comic Sans MS. I printed some of these of the sign to scale, to size. I printed that on 65 weight paper. I then used Sharpie pens to round the letters and make the letters better than what the font was, but what copied the prototype. I then laminated that to a second piece of 65 weight paper. I then used a scalpel to cut out each letter individually. And once they were cut out, I dipped those in CA glue. And so these letters are very firm, very hard, and easy to produce if you want to go through that detail work. But it was a fun process of making this prototype sign. So here are some signs from Miller Engineering. They have dozens of electrical signs, neon signs. Neon was first used in 1913 and certainly continued in signs through the 1950s. My favorite is the Seacoast sign, which is in my city of Boston. Lastly, my seaport scene would not be complete without some seagulls sitting on the building roofs making a mess. So here are some seagulls up on my seaport building. Roof surfaces give you another large area where you can play with your scenery. There is an opportunity to add texture and color and shapes and dormers. Chimneys, vents, and stacks break up the flat roof surfaces, but make sure they're all flashed. Water tanks are a quick and easy project for scratch building. Add roof structures like gutters, air conditioning units, ductwork, and junk. Lastly, declare your area with some appropriately dated billboards. All this scenery up on the roof will draw lots of attention and comments as the trains move through your town. Thank you.